Hello, good morning, and welcome. This is the cyber briefing. It is Wednesday for September, 8:30 in the morning, and I'm your host, Rich Benfield, who is still standing in for Stephen Ridgway. So, the headlines. Mozilla patches Firefox. Thunderbird as well against zero-day exploits in attacks. Zero-day summer. Microsoft warns of fresh new software exploits. Adobe says critical PDF reader zero-day being exploited. Exploits today. Save for Children confirms it was hit by a cyber attack. And Red Group compromises national power grid. So, Mozilla patches Firefox and Thunderbird against zero-day exploited in attacks. Mozilla have released an emergency security update today to fix a critical zero-day vulnerability exploited in the wild, impacting its Firefox web browser and Thunderbird email clients. It's tracked as CVE 2023-4863, and the security flaw is caused by a heap buffer overflow in the WebP code library, whose impact spans from crashes to arbitrary code execution. So, opening a malicious WebP image could lead to a heap buffer overflow in the content process. We're aware of this issue being exploited in other products in the wild, Mozilla said in an advisory published on Tuesday. That was yesterday, so this is quite hot off the press. Mozilla addressed the exploited zero-day in Firefox 117.0.1, Firefox ESR 115.2.1, and Thunderbird 102.15.1 and 115.2.2. So even though specific details regarding WebP flaws exploitation in attacks remains undisclosed, this critical vulnerability is being abused in real-world scenarios. Hence, users are strongly advised to install updated versions of Firefox and Thunderbird to safeguard their systems against potential attacks. Good, standard, solid advice there. Get yourselves updated if you're running any Mozilla products. Zero-day summer. Microsoft warns of fresh new software exploits. So, Microsoft struggles with zero-day exploits rolled into a new month with a fresh warning that 2 new Windows vulnerabilities are being targeted by malware attacks in the wild. We are talking about CVEs 36761 and 36802. They are in the exploitation detected category, and Windows sysadmins are urged to urgently apply fixes. So, the most serious of the 2 bugs is described as a privilege escalation flaw in Microsoft Streaming Service Proxy that carries a CVSS severity score of 7.8 out of 10. So quite a high one. An attacker who successfully exploited this vulnerability could gain system privileges, Microsoft cautioned. The Microsoft Streaming Service Proxy is part of the enterprise-facing Microsoft Stream Video Communication Service. Microsoft credited the discovery of the flaw to IBM X-Force security researcher Valentina Palmiotti and its internal threat intelligence and malware hunting teams. The second zero-day, confirmed in Microsoft Word, is an information disclosure issue credited to Redmond's internal bug finders. Exploiting this vulnerability could allow the disclosure of NTLM hashes, the company said. As is customary, Microsoft did not release any additional details on the live attacks or indicators of compromise to help defenders hunt for signs of compromise. 2 zero-days headline a hefty patch Tuesday for Microsoft customers. In all, the company shipped patches for approximately 65 documented flaws, counting by published CVEs, of course. The patches cover bugs in Windows operating system and software components that include Office, Azure, Exchange Server, and Windows Defender. Next, Adobe says critical PDF reader zero-day being exploited. Yes, another zero-day exploit. It looks like a lot of major vendors are having a bit of a tricky week. Software maker Adobe on Tuesday raised an alarm about new in-the-wild zero-day attacks hitting users of its widely deployed Adobe Acrobat and Reader products. As part of its scheduled batch of Patch Tuesday dates, Adobe warns that hackers are exploiting a remotely exploitable vulnerability, CV 2023-26369, to launch code execution attacks. Adobe describes the flaw as an out-of-bounds write safety issue affecting both Windows and Mac installations. Successful exploitation could lead to arbitrary code execution. Adobe is aware that CVE 26369 has been exploited in the wild in limited attacks targeting Adobe Acrobat and Reader, the company said in an advisory. Adobe did not specify which operating systems being targeted by in the wild attackers. Next, children confirmed it was hit by a cyber attack. The International Non-Governmental Organization, that's an NGO to you and me, Save the Children, was recently hit with a cyber attack. The company disclosed the security incident after the ransomware gang began, I think that's how you pronounce that, the organization on its Tor leak site. The extortion group claims to have stolen 6.8 terabytes of documents, including HR data, international personal data, international financial data, over 100 gigs worth, international medical data, and international email correspondence. And spokesperson told Recorded Future News that the cyber attack had no impact on the operations of the organization. The organization notified law enforcement agencies and is working with external cyber security experts to investigate the breach. There has been no operational disruption, and the organization continues to function as normal to build a better future for children across the world. We are working hard with external specialists to understand what happened and what data was impacted so we can take all the appropriate next steps, the organization's spokesperson told Recorded Future News. The Bianlian ransomware emerged in August 2022. The malware was employed in attacks against organizations in various industries, including manufacturing, media and entertainment, and healthcare. In July 2023, security firm Avast released a free decryptor for the Bianlian ransomware to allow victims of the malware to recover locked files. In July 2020, the breach was caused by a ransomware attack on cloud computing provider Blackboard. Blackboard is a cloud computing provider that serves a social good community, by the way, nations, corporations, education, healthcare, that sort of thing. So, looks like Save the Children have actually had a rough few years with a ransomware attack every couple of years. It does get to the point where you have to ask the question, what's going on? If you have been impacted by data breach in any sort of way, do reach out to them. And finally for today, a group company... Sorry. Couldn't even say a single thing there. So, right, let's start again. The final article today is Redfly Group compromises national power grid. So, the power grid that's been affected is in an unnamed Asian country. The threat group identified by Symantec as Redfly is not attributed to any nation, but two related groups, Blackfly and Greyfly, and they've been linked closely with China in previous reports. Redfly used a bespoke version of popular modular remote access Trojan, ShadowPad, another favourite of Chinese APT groups. The RAT, the RAT, copied itself to disk in several locations, masquerading as VMware files and directories to stay hidden, Symantec said. Another tool, Packloader, was used to load and execute shellcode, and a keylogger was installed under various names including winlogon.exe and hphelper.exe. The first ShadowPad intrusion was discovered on February 28th, with the RAT executed again on May the 17th. On May the 31st, a scheduled task was used to execute oleview.exe, most likely to perform sideloading and lateral movement. Use of oleview by ShadowPad has been previously documented by Dell SecureWorks and was also reported to have been used in attacks against industrial control systems, Symantec continued. The command specified that oleview was to be executed on a remote machine using a task name 10view. At 7:30 a.m., it appears the attackers likely used stolen credentials in order to spread their malware onto other machines within the network. Although the threat group doesn't appear to have engaged in active destruction or disruption of the target's operations, its ability to compromise such a key piece of critical infrastructure would alarm some. It's illustrative of the growing threat to CNI from state actors. The Five Eyes nations issued a joint alert back in May about Beijing-backed threat actors dubbed Volt Typhoon, targeting critical national infrastructure networks in the US. Threat actors maintaining a long-term persistent presence on the national grid presents a clear risk of attacks designed to disrupt power supplies and other vital services in other states during times of increased political tension, Symantec concluded. Whilst Symantec has not seen any disruptive activity by Redfly, the fact that such attacks have occurred in other regions means that they are not outside the bounds of possibility. And that wraps us up for this morning. So quite a busy one in terms of exploits and zero-day patches. So obviously, as usual, stay on top of your patching. So we'll see you tomorrow for tomorrow's daily cyber briefing. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all the usual stuff that those fancy YouTuber types tell you to do. Goodbye. Have a good